Why doesn't Shiva have a crown? Ganesh has a crown, Kali has a crown, Indra has a crown, Vishnu has a crown, Rama has a crown. Why not Shiva? What is this economy they try to save on gold in Shiva Loka? What's the reason? You see, the symbolism of a crown, generally, not just in the Hindu tradition, but the symbolism of a crown is a certain, at least one aspect of that symbolism, is a connectivity between this plane, material plane, and the spiritual plane. So the crown is a certain authority given by God, an authority given by the Spirit. Yeah? Very often saints in many different traditions are depicted with a kind of light here. Buddha also often has a crown over his head, and all this represents traditionally an activation of the crown chakra, Sahasrara, sometimes described beyond. There's 6 chakras in a structure beyond the crown, or Sahasrara, which, while activated, represents an opening to divinity. Now, Shiva does not have that on his head, but he has hair. Yeah, Shiva's hair is wrapped, his dreadlocks are wrapped around in this way. He has a kind of matted hair, put in this way, which creates exactly the same shape of a crown. Yeah, many of the crowns that are assigned to gods, goddesses, and different Buddhas also you see from the tradition of Kalachakra, Amitabha, Vairochana, and others, and many depictions of Buddha have a certain crown, and the goddesses Durga and Kali have a certain crown that would go a little bit like this shape, or sometimes like this kind of shape. Many of the temples, Buddhist temples, Hindu temples, they also have this repeated shape. Also in churches you will find such, in mosques as well, in many sacred architecture, this kind of shape, which represents, for the initiates, a genuine structure of energy at the top of the head. So the crown chakra has a very particular structure. It is described, there are hints of it you can find in Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, with the talks of Dvadeshanta there. You can find many sutras there that describe the structure. You can find in Shat Chakra Nirodha some clues about the structures. You can also find in more recent writings, such as Arthur Avalon, The Power of the Serpent, and in the writings of the clairvoyant Charles Leadbitter from the Theosophical Society, you can find a lot of writings about the shape of the crown. And all these deities have this shape over there as a representation of an awakened crown and as a connection. They are deities and they rule not with their own authority, but because their crown, their connective power is open to the supreme formless absolute that manifests, or that takes their form, takes its form in those who have this crown completely activated. Even the old magician hats, yeah, if you've seen this Mickey Mouse magician movie, and in, you know, party hats, yeah, when people have these party hats, that were the old magician hats that got, you know, popularized with birthday parties and so forth. But even this hat represents actually a certain activation that ancient magicians and alchemists, they would often have this structure from metal and from all sorts of sacred metals that would be blessed, that would be charged through meditation, prayer, rituals in different days of astrological cycles. About this there is quite a bunch of alchemical texts. A lot have been preserved actually from the Islamic tradition about this. They were actually served to focus the energy here in order to open the individual towards the spirit, yeah, and to awaken this higher form of energy. Now back to our original question, so Shiva, what, he is not connected to the Absolute? He doesn't have a crown? So Shiva is connected to the Absolute by his own hair. Shiva is the god of transcendence and of consciousness. The very substance, the very body of Shiva is that. Shiva doesn't need an external crown. Shiva is the crown. Shiva is the substance of the Absolute, because he is the god of consciousness. He rules not because he has a crown, but because he is that. He has a hair, and the hair represents the opening of the crown, and on top of the hair he has this crescent moon showing that he's beyond the cyclicity of time, and he has the goddess Ganges or Ganga that is pouring the Ganga from his head, which is also a symbol of the Himalayas, and descending as grace upon humanity. Shiva is the ascetic very often, and he is dressed in a very simple way, in the ways of ascetics, with a simple tiger skin, very often like Shiva Bhikshatana, for example. He's naked, and the statues have a very explicit, like Michelangelo's David, nudity of Shiva. He's often covered in ashes. He lives in graveyards or in secluded places or alone in the Himalaya, not in a palace, as you find, for example, Rama and Krishna as incarnations of Vishnu. But he has this very ascetic form, and as such it would be a dissonance to have a crown. There are some hypostases of Shiva, some of the ancient ones, where you do find Shiva with a crown, but mostly his connection to the Absolute is his own substance. For Shiva is the god of consciousness, the god of transcendence, and transcendence and consciousness are, let's say, the most intertwined with the Absolute, the most intertwined that you can find. So his hair is intertwined with the Absolute. One time when Daksha was creating a lot of trouble, and eventually Shiva's wife Sati burned herself because of all these trouble, Shiva got upset and he took one lock of hair. He took out one hair and turned it into Virabhadra and said, go and destroy their yagya, go and destroy their ritual, symbolizing again that his hair itself is divine. And this is one reason, one explanation why Shiva doesn't have a crown. Now this is just one explanation. There are more explanations why Shiva doesn't wear a crown. You can also research, you can also intuit for the symbolism, and please share in the comments below. If you like this video and want to learn more about Tantra, about yoga, about psychology, emotional healing, lives of saints and the scriptures,
then hit the bell, like, subscribe, and you'll never miss an upload. Thank you so much.